Greetings and welcome back, everyone. My name is Ziad Farhan bin Baharuddin, and I will be your MC for the forum today. Hello. This forum will be moderated by Associate Professor Dr. Sarawit Narupiti, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, where the topic of discussion is value adding to sustainable mobility. Associate Professor Dr. Sarawit Narupiti has a PhD in civil engineering obtained from Michigan State University and has research interests in intelligent transportation system, ITS, traffic operation and management, sustainable mobility, travel behaviors, and transportation policies and issues. Therefore, without any further ado, I would like to invite Professor Doctor to come up to the stage. Now, let us move on to the panelists. Please welcome the first panelist, Dr. S.K. Jason Chang, National Taiwan University from Taiwan. Next, the second panelist, Datin Sri Professor Dr. Suhaiza Hanims Datuk Muhammad Zailani from University Malaya, Malaysia. And our third and last panelist, Professor Dr. M.A. Sheila Gabuchayan Napalang, University of the Philippines from the Philippines. Esteemed guests, from the issues and limitations of mobility that you can retrieve from the back of your mind, what can we do to rectify and or mitigate them? Let us find out from today's forum. Now, I will hand the honor of this platform to Associate Professor Dr. Sarawit Narupiti from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, as the moderator of today's forum. Please welcome.
Thank you, MC, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, panelists. Thank you, everyone, to join us in this forum. As you know, our conference theme is toward sustainable, smart, and resilient mobility. And so far, we engaged some discussion during the first forum and the second forum. And the first forum theme is future of mobility. And the second forum focusing on bridging the gaps to mobility in the past 2 days. And today, again, is a good occasion that we're going to have one compelling forum, value adding to sustainable mobility. Since it is the last forum in this conference, so I would like panelists to say something that may be left off from the first forums, and you can share your thoughts about what we can do for the mobility to make it better for the future. And in the two forums, we see the pictures of our mobility in various ways. We see that a lot of panelists say something about technologies. It's as the way forward. It's not only technologies, but a lot of things changes at these days. And we have critical tasks for us as transport professional to make transportation system more human-centered and more sustainable. So I think that, in this conference, you hear a lot of professionals and experts sharing their insights and perspectives on how we can collect to make it better, more sustainable, smarter, and resilient mobility systems. Well, in this round, actually, we have variety of things that we can talk. Okay, according to the list, okay, we can talk anything about data analytic, multimodal integration, tourism and livability, public perception and engagement, long-term vision, human-centered design, and holistic mobility experience. So these things, and not limit to these only, can make us go through and make it more desirable mobility for the future. So I think that we're gonna do this, okay? We're gonna have 2 rounds. And the first round, I'd like our panelists to express their view on how can we make sustainable mobility. Maybe you can picture what would happen in the next 5 years. And perhaps you can pick some points from your opinion, kind of what is the critical factors that we can look at, we have to look at, or we have to concern. And the second round, we will discuss, even the floor could have some of your comments, share your comments and views on what we can do for the adding value for the sustainable mobility. So without further ado, I would like to start with Professor Jason Chang to say some words. Maybe you can have like 10 to 15 minutes for this. Okay, you can use the podium and stage. Thank you. Please give a round of applause to Professor Jason Chang.
Yes. I have my slide, please. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank the organization committee to inviting me to be one of the panelists in this wonderful forum. I'm very happy coming back to Malaysia. This is my 6th time in this Kuala Lumpur area, and particularly in this nice city, Shah Alam. And when I received the invitation and look at the 3 forums, I thought I might share something in a panel and see what kind of action we can take in terms of sustainable mobility. So I will show you some thought about sustainable mobility and fusion mobility. And I will give you some idea behind this so-called fusion mobility. And I will bring another important issue. That is the net zero. Because we cannot avoid talking about net zero policy when we talk about sustainable mobility. And then I will summarize my talk. This is my definition on sustainable mobility. On 2006, I was asked by a panel in Paris in our international transport forum, what's your opinion about green mobility, sustainable transportation? I define as a BB&W. BB&W, it's not BMW car, it's BB&W. If any city has the integration of bicycle, bus, metro, and walk, and that must be a green and health city. Basically, it's the active mobility plus public transport, shared mobility, and mobility as a service. In addition to this BB&W, we have to think about higher level of urban design, which is a transit-oriented development. We need to start the integration of BB&W and shared mobility in urban planning stage. And we also think about the new and innovative service, shared mobility, shared electric motorcycle, shared e-scooter, and fusion those innovative services into the TOD. So we call mobility-oriented design for our city. Combine this, we call this fusion mobility. And in terms of mobility service, I believe you all know the definition. So in Taiwan, we initiated the mobility service in Kaohsiung 7 years ago. And that really bring and shift lots of people from private motorized vehicle into public transport. So we use a bundle pricing and payment system using a common platform and use our smart car ticketing system. Just start from July 1st, the whole Taiwan implement so-called T-Pass. T-Pass. The government bring in $7 billion US dollar in the coming 3 years to have, you only pay for 40 US dollar. You can take metro, bus, public bike, shared mobility, regional train, and regional bus. In some area, you only pay 10 US dollar. You can take metro, bus, and public bike. And in terms of mobility service, maybe we can think about the target, the objective. For example, I show you here, by 2030, 30% of passengers using mobility service, using the platform. And we also need to think about mobility as a social service, which will provide on-demand service for the rural area and for our aging population. And with this mobility service and innovative service, we need to have the legal settlement for efficiently and flexibly adopt the new services. And in terms of a smart design, TOD, I don't, time is so limited, so I skip this, this one. I want to mention that all of this integration, network integration, operation integration, ticketing pricing, service, information, and institutional information, we need good data, because the data can help us to provide good service quality for the passenger, high efficient operation for operator, and have our government, our decision maker, have a high quality of decision making. And then those data and information may create new innovative service. So that can increase the job opportunity, okay? Increase the economic growth. In terms of the governance, we have to think about how to enhance the governance capability. So here, I just mentioned data analytics and digital twins. I think this is very important that we enhance the capability of governance, and that can ensure the target, the objective of SDG and so-called the Vision Zero and Net Zero can be achieved. And as I mentioned, legal settlement. Okay, we need to have a good legal framework to accommodate, to facilitate those new innovation and services in the whole framework of sustainable mobility and future mobility. last but not least, demand management. So we need to have a pull, and we need to have a push policy. So we need to have a good management scheme for those private motorized vehicle, car, motorcycle. Have them pay what they should pay. So under the sustainable mobility, as I mentioned, net zero vision and policy is very important because lots of scholars has mentioned, including the first chair of European Parliament, say achieving the 2050 net zero goal is hopeless without the deep decarbonization of transportation sectors. So in this session, we say, adding value to sustainable mobility. I think our transporting sector should action as fast as we can, because without our real implementation of the decarbonization, I don't think we can achieve the 2050 net zero goal. So let's think about, how about we set up the roadmap that by 2030, all the transportation building, terminal, use renewable energy. I think, as you know, the German railway has, promised that by 2028, all the terminal will use renewable energy. By 2037, all the German railway operation will use renewable energy. It's a great ambition. And in our region, in Asia, we have a lot of motorcycles. You see, those are summarized, the traffic composition of motorcycles. It's huge. So we need to think about electrify mobility for motorcycle. In Taiwan, we initiate the electric motorcycle sharing scheme. We also work with Indonesia, have that electric motorcycle, we call Go Share, electric motorcycle sharing scheme. I think we in our Asia region, we need to think about this particularly traffic situation.
Maybe I.
So let me summarize my talk on this so-called adding value to sustainable mobility. First of all, I would say integration is very important for having people shift to public transport. And what kind of benefit we can have? Of course, contribution to climate change, definitely. Public health, safety, and social equity. And we need a smart governance. And we need to have our so-called BBNW and shared mobility linked with the land use, the urban design. And we need to take action right now. And we need to have our collaboration with our international partners in terms of investment and technology innovation. This concludes my presentation and my talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Jason Chang. This is only your first round, though. Thank you very much for reminding us. I think you remind us a lot about future mobility is sustainable mobility. I know Professor Jason Chang a lot. He does a lot of technology stuff, but you keep reminding us as well that our vision and goals is actually sustainable transportation. So technologies could be enabler of those to those goals, right? I'd like to move then to the second speaker, panelist. We can have different perspective, different matters that can bring us to the next kind of 5 years from now or decades of mobility and transportation. May I call Professor Suhaisa to give your view on what we can do to our transportation for the next 5 to 10 years, please.
Hello, yeah. Okay, thank you, Dr. Sorawit, from Thailand, as a moderator for this session today. Assalamualaikum, very good morning. I'm Suhaiza from UC Malaya. To be honest, my research interest is on the logistic and supply chain. Yeah, it is a bit related to transportation, but my focus area is more on the freight logistics. But somehow, looking at the connectivity agenda, so the transportation and logistics, they are quite relevant each other. Yeah. Okay, when we talk about the sustainable mobility, I need to go back to the definitions, how we define the sustainable mobility. Yeah? Actually, it's been defined as a movement of the product or people, in minimizing the negative impact of environment, social as well economic. So if you look deeper, the needs of having this sustainable mobility, actually it goes up to the agenda of SDG. Yeah. And I was having a chance just now looking at how we map out sustainable mobility to our SDG. It can be 5 goals that we can achieve. SDG 3, SDG 7, SDG 9, SDG 11, as well as SDG 13. So it seems that we are in the right track in achieving our SDG, by implementing this sustainable mobility. Yeah, going forward to the zero carbon in 2030 in Malaysia. So I think we are in the right track, looking at the idea or looking at the initiatives, the actions, what need to be taken in order to achieve this sustainable mobility. Yeah? So if we thought about in the future, what will happen to us, what would be our status, what would be our progress in terms of the sustainable mobility. I would say in Malaysia, we are progressing. Yeah, I can see there are lots of initiatives by the government, talking about investment in terms of the technology, R&D, innovation to go for this sustainable mobility. Yeah, and then we are somewhere. Yeah, it won't be so surprised to see that the numbers of the drivers of EV cars increase over the years. Yeah. Because I'm doing that research looking at the attitude, behavior of the people, what do they think about the EV cars, do they have any willingness to go and get the EV in the future? And it seems that the numbers are positive, and we have a significant results to show that the society are looking forward to go and get the EV cars in the future. So that could be something which I would say in 5 years' time, Malaysia, we're not surprised to have actually about 50% increment in terms of the drivers of this EV car. I'm staying in Cyberjaya. As you know, Cyberjaya is one of the what so-called we call as the smart cities in Malaysia. We following the framework, Malaysia Smart Cities framework that which been developed in 2013. And interestingly, the smart mobility is one of the aspects that need to be in that framework, that has been actually proposed to be in the framework. And happy to share that in Cyberjaya, I would say that we are about, almost like complying to these framework requirements. Like we have lots of the, neighborhoods that actually driving EV cars. We can see less issues in terms of the air pollution. I think this could be as the success stories, what is now in Malaysia that we are moving towards the sustainable mobility. And the success stories of the Cyberjaya itself can be as a case study for other cities to implement the same framework. And this is something like which will go back to the community well-being. If you go back to the SDG goals, number 3 is about the health of the people as well on the well-being. So the initiatives, the agendas, the actions all are actually to help the nation, to help the people, how we can live healthier, how we can live or improve our quality of life by looking at these directions to be more sustainable in terms of our transport, in terms of our mobility. I think having this conference, looking specifically on the sustainable mobility is very timely. And thank you so much again for the organizer for inviting me to be as one of the speakers today. I think that's all.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we hear a lot about other aspects that we can do, to put forward. She showed good examples at Cyberjaya. It's already have action, Professor Chang. The one you said, something that put forward and make it happen. And she also mentioned about people's or business acceptance to this change. We had to help. Action means that everybody has to move forward all together. As the citizen, as a public, we have to accept, this new framework and go along with the government and other people. So let me move on to another panelist then, Professor Sheila, and she would share her view, please, about what you think about how can we move forward, please.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you're enjoying your coffee and snacks while we're thinking about sustainable mobility in the future. Let me just share my thoughts. I have 4 points I'd like to share as we move forward. The first point is that, through the pandemic, we've seen how technology has actually helped us function in unusual times. So my first thought is, as we move forward, we need to leverage technology for many things. Of course, for data analytics, but most of all is for information. Information particularly, and of course this is where I usually dwell on, for persons with reduced mobility. Information on before they travel, so the entire journey cycle, pre-travel, travel, and post-travel information is really very important. This would also help us reduce, crowding in stations as well, right? The second one is we can leverage technology, and I think this was mentioned by Professor Jason earlier in his keynote speech. I'm just joking. In his presentation, we can leverage technology to actually reduce demand. We have seen that when we started work from home, but maybe we can also continue that, some parts of it. So therefore, this is actually the first pillar of sustainable transport, isn't it? Avoid, shift, improve. So the first one, we can use technology to avoid unnecessary travel. This actually brings us to the higher form of, transportation definition, which is really not just about mobility, but about accessibility, right? Accessibility of goods and services. My second thought is we need to also connect micromobility to public transportation. Now, traditionally, we've talked about, main trunk lines and feeder lines, but the pandemic has also shown us that people have shifted to micromobility, to cycling and walking, right? And so therefore, this was actually done during the pandemic. They connected micromobility, so they allowed bicycles. So this extended the influence area, the service area of the transport services, right? So this would also be in a way equitable, because people who cannot afford the first ride can still get to the main station. The other benefit of actually looking at this connectivity is, I'm sure if you've seen a lot of the presentations deal with ride-hailing mobility. Particularly in the Asian countries, it's the ride-hailing mobility for motorcycle taxis that's really growing. So what we can do is we could probably harness the micromobility so it does not compete with trunk line transport and just feed towards it. I think that's very important for us to remember that of course it's here already. We cannot, somehow turn a blind eye that there are ride-hailing, particularly motorcycles, which is rising, right? So it's important for us to look at, I guess, connectivity, right? Micromobility and ride-hailing. The third one is, of course, every time we talk about transport, we completely forget, and maybe some forget, but that there are different users, hence different needs. So in the future, I think it's very important for us to actually consider the intersectionality of issues of gender, race, disability, and even socioeconomic, affordability is very, very important. We have been, viewing transport system as a one-size-fits-all, and we know that that's not true. So when we do that, we marginalize those with limited capacity to do this. Okay, my last point would be, we also need to use transport to manage externalities at the tourism areas, right? I've seen examples like in national parks, for instance, in the US, they limit the number of buses that can be accommodated in the parking lot. So then they are able to manage the number of vehicles that go there. And they don't allow private cars to go there. It has to be public transport. And so therefore they manage the problem of congestion as well as the externality of environmental degradation, because we all know that the higher volume of vehicles you have, all things being equal, you would have higher emission. So just like, and I'd like to just end by saying, Professor Jason has BBMW. I hope you remember that. We'll have a quiz later on. Okay, I'd like to end mine with CASE. Okay, CASE means connectivity, accessibility, safety, and equity. I think that's how we should view our future. Thank you.
Okay, I have it. Thank you very much. Oh, a lot of words, huh? Allow me, Professor Jason, because Professor Sheila has had a lot of new thoughts in your BMW as well. Like B for you is like bike and bus, but M for her is metro, micromobility, and motorcycle taxi, which is quite pertinent to Asian countries, right? So we have to think about it then. This is a coming service, and I think it's why it's coming. It's pertinent to our context, pertinent to our needs. And she also adds very important aspect on different users, like intersectional matters. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes. Now we hear a lot of views from our expert on panelists. Should I ask the audience, or we can go for the second round? Perhaps if you have any question or you want to share some of your comments. Okay, I have to say this is your last chance because this is the last forum in this conference. Yeah, please, any comments? We can kind of share to other people. Anyone would like to? Thank you. Do you want microphone? Yeah, there's one microphone over there, please.
Thank you, all the panelists. It's a wonderful exposition. It's an observation, comment, and also request to your comments also. Professor Jason's BBMW was music to my ears, those who are interested in active transport and public transport. But the whole of yesterday's forum that we saw yesterday, it was presented as if growth of car and car usage in developing countries is inevitable as the country's economy progresses. That's a myth which is being generated, and if you see the Western European models like Dutch, it is quite contradictory. We are only following the American models of where car becomes the only tool of transport. So my question to the panelists is did any city actively consider demand management by curtailing car and promote active transport, and what are its results? And as a forum East, or as a group of interested professionals in public transport, did we analyze or present any policies how car is not an inevitable growth of an economic part of the growth? These are the two questions. First question is, Have any East Asian or South Asian city tried active mobility-based approach where car is constrained and cycle and walking is encouraged along with public transport? Second question is, how can we debunk the myth that as economy progresses, car transport becomes inevitable? That is a myth that is being generated across all Asian and South Asian countries. That's what I observed. These are the two questions. Thank you.
Can you? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Can you stand to the microphone again, please? Because it's a little bit difficult to hear from here. You're saying. Can you summarize what?
So
what
two
are your
questions.
questions? Yeah.
Two
loudly,
questions.
loudly, please.
Loudly, huh?
Okay. Yeah.
Am I clear now?
Yeah.
Yeah, two questions. One is, any country in the developing world, especially Asia, Southeast Asia, or South Asia, actually pursued active transport policies by constraining car mobility? Is there any example, and what are the results of that example? If there is none, then we can leave it. Second is, how do we debunk the myth that as economy progresses, car travel becomes essential? That is a myth that is being generated. I'm saying this from the experience that if you look at West European countries like Dutch, they have a share of 40 or 45% for cycling. And they have dismantled car-oriented roads and made cycle-oriented roads. When we are following the American model of wider roads, faster cars, which will be our doom for our economy because of the densities of population. So these are the two questions. One is, any city followed active transport policies in any of the developing countries? And how do we debunk the myth that car is inevitable in a developing economy? These two. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. I will attempt to answer it. One country that has been really, really successful in curbing demand for cars is Singapore. But you see, I will temper my answer by saying transport is always about equity. You cannot tell people not to use their cars if you don't give them options, how to get to work. Because remember, transport is a derived need. It is a means to an end to where you need to go. So in Singapore, what they do is they've got a really terrific, I'm not from Singapore, but no one is from Singapore, but they've got terrific public transportation, which is rail and bus. Meaning if I don't have a car, I can still get to where I need to go. So that's their carrot. The stick is that they have what they call the, what is this? No, not the congestion pricing. There's a certificate of entitlement or something like that. COE, yeah. Certificate of entitlement. You have to bid for it. If you want to buy a car, you have to bid for it. And that's what you bring to the car dealers. So they can do that because people won't complain because they can still go to where they need to go. So I think, that's one thing. I'd also like to, I'm not sure if I understand correctly your question about how do we break the myth that cars or your private vehicles are necessary. I'd like to temper my answer by saying it actually depends on trip purposes. That's why we're very big on bike, what is this? BB. Bike, bus, metro, and walk. But that's for the urban centers. But see, if you think about traveling with your family for long distance, a car may be your best option. So when you talk about sustainable mobility or sustainable transport, we think about the most efficient mode of transport for a particular trip purpose. So it's not necessarily bad to own a car. I studied in Japan, and a lot of my professors, they have car, but they do take the train going to their work. So it has to be tempered that way. Thank you.
let me bring some real evidence based on my research for Taipei metropolitan area. That might be able to answer part of your question. 20 years ago, I have a project to explore the trip cost for all kind of mode, okay? And we find out the motorcyclist only pay 1/3 of what they should pay. So in Taipei, every day they only pay $1, but they need to pay $3 based on the analysis. So another $2 include pollution, noise, safety risk, all those external costs. So when I present this to our mayor, okay, he said, hey Jason, could you tell me what does it meaning by Chinese, not English, by Chinese? I say you have to, because at that time, 96% of motorcycles don't pay any parking fee in the city. 96%. And our car only pay 2/3 of what they should pay. Because 50% of car in the city don't pay anything. It's unfair. Okay? So their happiness basically is I would say it's a distorted convenience. Okay, their distorted convenience make us, including themselves, because cyclists riding on the road, they breathe those pollutants, okay, so that damage their public health. Every year in Taiwan, we have 20,000 deaths because of air pollution, and 70% of air pollution coming from motorcycles and cars. Okay, so when I talk to mayor say, okay, good, okay, let's have all the motorcycle pay for it, but let's implement this policy in my second term. Okay, in my second term. Okay, so 20 years passed. Only start 4 or 5 years ago. Finally, one of our mayor, Mayor Ke, okay, he's running our president. he start really implement the parking fee for motorcycle, starting from the surrounding area of metro station, and then the major arterial road, and then extend to all the street. Although it's not that much, okay, every day 10 to 20 NT dollar, only quarter of US dollar, but that's a good start. Have the private motorized vehicle pay what they should pay. And in addition to the pricing policy, we also implement the speeding, limit of the speed for motorized vehicle in the urban area. Okay, that's another kind of making them feel what they should pay for it. Okay, I hope this can answer part of your question. It's not easy, but you have to start. You have to have a champion, a mayor, to really have the vision to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the question too.
Can I share mine?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit about based on my own experience, right? I'm working in Kuala Lumpur, but I'm staying in Cyberjaya. It will take me more than 1 hour to travel from my home to the university, right, by car. But I do have option taking MRT, which will cost me about 2 ringgit per day return, and it's much more, in terms of the time, I can cut it to be, like 30 minutes to reach my office. But I prefer to drive on my own, car, even though it will take more than 1 hour, even though it costs me 12 ringgit per day, due to the reasons that, accessibility and convenient, right? I think the cultural and social factors also could be the factors which we are more preferred to drive our own car, right? Even though now we have started to realize that our government is trying to reduce the private transport or private vehicles to move into the multi-modal kind of transportation, but I think it won't be easy to be done. It will be taking ages to build up the, I would say, the attitude, the willingness of the drivers to change from the private vehicle to the multimodal kind of transportation. In the Malaysian scenario at the moment, we have the project on ECRL, right? Which is speed train from East Coast to Kuala Lumpur. That could be something that open the eyes of the public that taking the train would be much more easier than drive the car to Kelantan, to the East Coast, right? So I think by having this project, then people will realize, that taking the public transport is much more, in the future it will be more convenient, time, time benefit, cost saving, and so on and so forth. Okay, bye.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you heard that, different views from different countries, actually. Let me share my point as well from Thailand, actually. I think as professionals, we understand that we will go for the sustainable transport. For example, restraining from the private car into the public transportation. But it's up to the place, it's up to the environment that you can do it, how fast you can do it, and how you do it, I think. Well, how is we can learn from each other, right? But I think, the how fast you can move from private transport to public transport, I think now is different in each from the context and each area. I like Professor Sheila said that there's also many options, and it comes down to the choice. I think because we have different needs for everyone and different purposes, and perhaps a private vehicle can be good for some purposes, but we want a lot of people to use public transport. It's good for the city, I think. Yeah, you see, dense, crowded population. Perhaps public transport will be the best solution for mobility. But we leave choices for some other people who maybe in several reasons. So in Thailand as well, we did so, and we attempt to do all these things as well. But my comment, I believe that you or I can make the change. It's not making waiting for someone to make it happen, but we as a traveler, we can do it. We can do it. All right, that's my comment. Okay, maybe we can have more view or comments or questions from the floor. Very interesting to hear from you what you want to learn or what you want to make comments, please. Very good. Can you go closer to the microphone, please? Yeah.
Hello. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. So my name is Ghazali from UUM, Sintok, Kedah. So actually, I just wanted to echo the one that mentioned by Prof. Suhaiza. It's about, the factors that may hinder our progress on this sustainability, mobility, like culture, what else? Probably accessibility and convenient. So now my question to Prof. Jason, as you have said, or as you shared in your presentation about the case of Taiwan, Taipei, and so on, I would like to bring the question to the case of Malaysia. So my question to you, as an outsider who had no conflict of interest, I mean, you are not working with any government agency, with our government ministry and whatsoever, or you not a Malaysian, what do you think the factor that caused Malaysia having difficulties, fall behind, not progressing, moving toward sustainable mobility? What are the causes, for your opinion? I mean, by your opinion. And the second one is, if you may share with us what or who are the drivers that push forward the agenda of sustainable mobility in Taiwan? Is it the people itself, because they really wanted to go, because they are very care on the environment, they wanted to reserve our world for the next generation, that's why they go for the sustainable mobility? Or is it because government really invest a lot of money in order to materialize the agenda of sustainable mobility? Or is it because it's a really profit-oriented business for doing this sustainable mobility? You got my question, right, Prof? I mean, your viewpoint as the outsider. And the second one, the driver for agenda for the case of Taiwan. Is it people? Is it government? Is it private? Thank you, Prof.
Okay, it's a tough question. I need to stay Malaysia for 1 or 2 years, so that I can really contribute my point. I'm really happy and lucky that I could be the advisor to mayor since 1994 in Taipei. So as mentioned by Professor Napridi, that we can really change the city. I don't have a car. I surrendered my car, a big car from the United States, to our EPA 20 years ago. Why? Because we help build up the city so that I don't need a car. I take metro. I have 5 bicycles, including this one. made by my wife, because I promote green mobility. But it takes time. You need to bring evidence to your mayor, to those decision makers, so they have confidence making good decision on transportation. And I would say it's not easy, because the mayor normally face 100 items. He need to make decision. Transportation is just part of them. But transportation, as mentioned by our panelists, in terms of smart city, transportation, that is the first that people can really feel the improvement. So I would say, as a professor in Taiwan, normally we have several committee in the city government and in the central government. So, for example, I myself joined the Committee for Urban Planning, Committee for Urban Design, Committee for Transportation Pricing. So we help evaluate those policies and, give some advice to the mayor, and even help to modify, for example, the pricing scheme, the bus fare, or even, we have the formulation of transit-oriented design scheme to legalize those ideas, into our regulatory framework. So I think that as a professor, we can contribute. Okay. So yesterday we discussed with Tori from Indonesia regarding the bus operation reform. This is a good example that this is the National Committee of bus operation. So this committee issued the right-of-way for operation every 5 years, okay, and decide the bus fare and subsidy, and conduct the performance evaluation for bus operation. So, and based on the evaluation result, the bus company can obtain another 5-year right-of-way for operation if they got excellent service. So all this management scheme that we can contribute as a professor and as a scholar. Okay, I hope this answers your question. Yeah, I really hope I can stay, University of Malay, and study, work with you, and provide more further suggestion for our beautiful country here. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can talk about on behalf of Malaysian, right? What is the scenario in Malaysia at the moment? I think because of the infrastructure itself has been designed, to prioritize the private usage instead of the public kind of transport. So initially we started with the more focus on the private usage, right? And another thing is that, the policies for the sustainable mobility is not yet been enforced. There's no enforcement on that. It's not mandatory. It's a bit like optional. So if you really want to go for the sustainable mobility, perhaps we need to be a bit more stringent in terms of the enforcement to make it like, okay, for those short distance, they need to go and use the public transport, for example. Yeah. So make it as something like a compulsory need to be done by the public. Then I think, in the future to go for the high extent of sensibility in mobility, it will be greater. Yeah, that's my, Okay.
Thank you. Another guy would like to, yes, please. Get closer to the microphone, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Dole. Actually, I come from India. I am a PhD scholar in Indian Institute of Technology, Guwahati. My question is on sustainability and safety implication on electric vehicles. Actually, here we are discussing about the sustainability. My main question is that, is it adopting electric vehicles in the future, as we are following the same things for adopting electric vehicles due to the increasing price of the coals and degradations of the fuels, actually. And is it actually is dismiss the cost of the electric vehicles as well as the emission. Actually, as we are concerned, emission is the one main factor in this world, like global warming, as we have seen in the urban corridors in the cities, big mega cities, metropolises. There is causes a huge numbers of pollution. Is adopting an electric vehicles in future reduce the emissions as well as it will be cost effective for the people using these electric vehicles.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please? It's very difficult to hear for you, please.
Okay.
Get closer, louder, please.
Yes, sir. Sir, my main question is that, sir, is the using electric vehicles cost effective, and using this electric vehicle will decrease the emissions in the urban cities like metropolises? Is my question.
Electric vehicles,
Yes, yes.
right? Okay. Like policy and any show evidence to show like cost effective. Like now the electric vehicle is popular, so maybe we can say some words about maybe it's cost effective or not.
May I ask if we get the question right? Yes? Your question is it cost effective to use electric vehicles to address pollution in urban centers? Is that a correct take?
Yes, that's
Thank
right.
you. All right, so then
In terms of electrified mobility, I'm sure a young student, okay. In Taiwan, like most of the country, already set up the goal for electrified mobility and hydrogen policy. Okay. We have 8 million cars plus 14 million motorcycles. Okay. In the whole country, we have about 40,000 buses, all kinds of buses, okay? 260,000 truck, okay? And whole the transportation sector contribute about 17% of the emission, greenhouse gas emission, okay? So this is the plan, okay? By 2020, by 2030, all the city bus, 11,700, all the city bus need to be electrified. Okay. By 2040, all the new car and motorcycle need to be electrified, which means every year, 400,000 cars, 1 million motorcycles need to be electrified. And one of my studies show, although 70% of our fuel, our energy in Taiwan coming from fossil, okay, oil, coal, okay. However, if all the city vehicle, car, motorcycle, bus, being electrified, the pollution in the city can be reduced 42%. So that is direct contribution to the public health.
Thank you.
And the whole nation try to, as I mentioned, 70% fossil energy. So we try to reduce from 70% to 30% by 2040. It's a very big challenge. And particularly talk about the electricity. Since those electricity is still coming from mainly the fossil energy. So that's why we start working on the hydrogen. Okay? And also another one is the CCS storage, carbon storage and reuse. And but but that, I need to have another hour to spend.
No, Jason, please.
But totally, I would say the basic question will be, what your electricity coming from?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let's, Professor Sheila, share a little bit of your view, please.
All right, just I'd like to answer that question in a roundabout way. You can go to your seat. Because when you use the environment as a reason for people to shift to electric vehicles, that won't work. We have to remember that transport is about mobility. So when you're able to move, to connect the services, people will shift, right? The Philippines recently passed its Electric Vehicle Industry Act, which requires that 5% of public transport industry vehicles will shift. But that will take some time because it's always about service. People, if you ask people, do you want to shift to electric vehicle because of the environment? No. Remember, when we talk, it's never about the technology, it's always about the transport service because that's what people look for.
Thank you. Yeah. I share my view a little bit. Yes, in Thailand we also have a good and strong policy on electric vehicles. We call this policy 30-30. By 2030, we would have 30% of new vehicles. New vehicle will become electric vehicles. But it's not just like that. Those things are for production. I think that we have also some policies to ban or encourage electric vehicle in the city. Okay, at the moment, one study is undergoing. It's not about cost effective, but it's about people. Because if we can reduce pollution in the city, in any way that we can do, we have to do so. All right, so those things we try to limit or encourage electric vehicle, limit ICE cars or encourage electric vehicles in the city. So those things are happening in Thailand at the moment. I got signals that...
Just
okay,
one last,
please.
Yeah, to answer the question whether, the electric vehicles is cost effective or not, actually it's depending on several factors. The purchase price, the maintenance cost, as well the subsidies from the government. Right? At the moment in Malaysia, I think EV we are still under subsidies, so we are so lucky into that, right? But I think there are other values that we have to look into. As what Prof said, if those people are really concerned on the environment, they should not be bothered about the purchase price. They just go and get the EV cars for them, right? So these are the factors. So if you want to say, whether it's cost effective or not, actually it's depending. And where are we want to go for this EV? Whether you like it or don't like it, you're interested to drive the EV cars, then up to you. Yeah. So the issues here actually is up to individual. So I can say at the moment, if based on the results of our research, right? So the interest and also the willingness of the people to go and buy the EV cars actually is increasing. So it's just something that we are in the towards that agenda of the zero net kind of things in 2030. Yeah.
Thank you. Time is running close to the end. Any comments from the panelists? Maybe only last words? Yeah, we have 3 minutes left. 1 minute for each. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Narupiti. I think we should take action right now, okay? And we should also think about not only the net zero, but also the vision zero. We bring sustainable mobility can achieve these 2 zero goals. And also, I would like to also mention that behavioral change is very important. And this is good timing that combined with ESG. We bring the cooperative power. They work together with those big group and social society. I think that would have, a good momentum for the behavioral change. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree with Prof. Thank you so much for the idea. Yeah, it's a behavior change. That's very important.
All right, thank you, Dr. Sordwait. I'll just get 30 seconds so you can still speak. But I'd like to just leave everyone that remember, anything worthwhile does not happen overnight. And it's never the function of just the government, nor the scientists, nor the industry players, or the commuters. But it's a commitment from everyone to actually make that change. So I'd like to say, let's walk the talk.
Thank you. Oh, that's good wrapped up there. I think it's time to the end. I would like to close this forum, and I would like to thank all panelists and all audience here. Very nice, wonderful view from you as well. So thank you very much.